Hey, sit down for a second. I need to tell you something most guys don't want to hear, but absolutely need to know. You know that gut feeling you've been ignoring for weeks? That tiny nagging voice in the back of your head that says, something's off? Yeah. It might not just be paranoia. Believe it or not, there are certain things your woman might say or do that are screaming loud and clear that she's not fully committed, and I'm going to break them down for you. But here's the deal. This isn't about turning into a detective or spying on her phone. This is about paying attention, seeing patterns, and understanding behaviors that are often brushed off as normal. And trust me, if you catch more than one of these red flags stacking up, ignoring them could cost you way more than just trust. It could cost your peace of mind. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine you've been with your woman for a while, things were solid, and then suddenly she's acting different. Small things at first. Maybe she laughs at a text a little too much when you're around. Maybe she's suddenly super protective of her phone. Or maybe she just seems distant without an explanation. You shrug it off because you want to trust her, right? That's exactly what most guys do, and that's where the danger lies. These little signs, when taken together, are often more telling than the grand gestures of love or loyalty we focus on. Now, I know what you're thinking. Maybe I'm overreacting. And maybe you are. But what if you're not? What if these aren't harmless quirks, but actual signals that she's emotionally or even physically investing somewhere else? It's not about being controlling. It's about protecting yourself. Because once you start ignoring these patterns, it's easy to convince yourself everything is fine, even when it's not. In this video, I'm going to teach you exactly what to look for. I'm going to break down the 5 most common behaviors that, when you spot them, are serious warning signs that something is wrong. No fluff, no exaggeration, just straight up practical advice. Pay attention because knowing these could save you from heartbreak, stress, and wasting years in a relationship that's not what it seems. Stick with me, and by the end of this video, you'll see things in a completely new light. And trust me, you'll never ignore that gut feeling again. 1. Sudden phone obsession. All right, lean in for a second. This one's tricky because it's subtle at first, but if you notice it, it's worth paying attention to. Have you ever seen her suddenly become obsessed with her phone? I'm not talking about normal texting or scrolling through social media. I mean the kind of behavior where she's constantly locking her phone, taking it to the bathroom, or disappearing for long periods with it in hand. You might brush it off as everyone checks their phone a lot these days, but here's the kicker. Context matters. When this behavior pops up out of nowhere, it's a huge red flag. Think about it like this. If someone is openly loving, transparent, and secure in the relationship, they won't feel the need to hide. But suddenly guarding her phone, flipping it face down the moment you walk into the room, or changing passwords without telling you, that's your gut telling you something isn't right. And yes, it's controversial to say, but I have to be honest here. Patterns like this are often the first signs that she's giving attention to someone else. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, maybe she's just private, or maybe she's got work stuff. That's fair, but the difference is in the sudden change. If she's always been open with you about her phone and then overnight she starts treating it like it's a secret weapon, that's not normal. Healthy relationships thrive on transparency. When that disappears, you need to take notice. Here's another thing to watch. The small gestures that seem innocent but actually say a lot. Does she jump every time her phone buzzes? Does she delete messages quickly or leave the room to text? Does she get defensive if you casually ask who she's texting? Each of these small actions might seem harmless in isolation, but when they appear together, it's a pattern you cannot ignore. And listen, I'm not saying you should start snooping or going through her messages. That's not the point. This isn't about invading privacy, it's about observation. Pay attention to behavior changes because your gut rarely lies. Men often ignore these signals because they want to trust their partner or because they convince themselves it's paranoia. But ignoring these signs is exactly how heartbreak sneaks up on you. One controversial truth. Phone obsession often comes paired with other secretive habits. She might suddenly be too busy to hang out, or she might start hiding small details about her day. These behaviors alone don't guarantee cheating, but when combined with obsessive phone behavior, they're a serious warning. Think of it like smoke before a fire. It's not proof, but it's a warning you shouldn't ignore. So here's what you do. Don't overreact, but start paying attention. Notice patterns, not isolated moments. Observe if the phone behavior is consistent, especially when paired with emotional distance or sudden defensiveness. Make mental notes and trust your instincts. If your gut is screaming that something is off, don't silence it just because you want everything to be fine. Remember, men, this isn't about controlling her. It's about protecting yourself. Sudden phone obsession is one of the clearest early signals that attention is being directed somewhere it shouldn't be. If you spot this, take it seriously, stay calm, and watch for the next signs that will break down in the following sections. Knowledge here is power, and noticing this early can save you from a lot of unnecessary pain later. 2. Emotional distance, out of nowhere. Okay, sit tight because this one hits differently. Imagine this. Everything between you two seems fine. She laughs at your jokes, texts you during the day, shares little things about her life, and then, almost overnight, something changes. She becomes distant. She doesn't laugh as much, stops sharing her day, maybe even seems irritated by things that never bothered her before. You're left thinking, did I do something wrong? And here's the hard truth. It might not be about you at all. Emotional distance is one of the sneakiest red flags because it doesn't shout, it whispers. But if you've been in a relationship long enough, you can feel the difference between normal mood swings and a real shift. When she suddenly shuts down emotionally, ignores your attempts to connect, or seems preoccupied with her own world, it's a sign to pay attention. The controversial part? Many men underestimate this signal because it's not obvious. You can't point to a text or a lie, but your instincts know something is off. Here's what to look for specifically. Does she stop sharing her thoughts and feelings with you? Does she brush off meaningful conversations or give one-word answers when you try to connect? Does she seem distracted when you're together, scrolling through her phone or staring off into space? These might seem small, but in a relationship, emotional connection is everything. When it starts slipping, something else is often filling that gap, and it might not be you. Now, let's address the common excuse. Maybe she's stressed at work or going through something personal. That's possible, absolutely. Everyone has off days, but notice the pattern. Emotional distance becomes a red flag when it's consistent, unexplained, and paired with subtle secrecy or unusual behaviors, like that sudden phone obsession we talked about earlier. Men often ignore these signals because they want to believe everything is fine, but ignoring it doesn't make it go away. Another subtle clue. She may become defensive when you ask questions about her day or her feelings. Instead of opening up, she shuts down, deflects, or even gets irritated. That defensiveness often comes from guilt or the fear of being caught in something she's hiding. It's controversial to say, but emotional withdrawal combined with defensiveness is one of the strongest behavioral indicators that attention is being given elsewhere. So, what should you do? First, observe without overreacting. Pay attention to patterns, not isolated incidents. Keep track of how often she's emotionally unavailable, how she responds to your attempts at closeness, and if her behavior is paired with other red flags we'll cover in this video. Your gut is your best ally here. If it tells you something isn't right, don't ignore it. Here's the critical takeaway. Emotional distance is a warning sign, not proof, but it's one you cannot afford to overlook. It often comes before bigger issues, and recognizing it early gives you a chance to make informed decisions about the relationship. Men, this is about protecting yourself and understanding the signs before it escalates. Being aware of emotional distance can save you from heartbreak, wasted time, and the pain of ignoring your instincts. Remember, this isn't about controlling her or accusing her unfairly. It's about being alert, aware, and honest with yourself about what you're seeing. Emotional distance out of nowhere is a powerful indicator that something serious might be going on, and noticing it now could save you from unnecessary hurt down the road. 3. Overly critical or defensive behavior. All right, now let's talk about something a lot of men notice but often ignore because it feels like normal relationship tension. You know that vibe when everything seems fine on the surface, but suddenly, even the smallest comment you make feels like it's being twisted or shot down? That's the energy we're talking about. It's subtle at first, but over time, it becomes draining, confusing, and, if you pay attention, extremely telling. Here's the thing. In a healthy relationship, you can talk freely, joke, disagree, or share your thoughts without walking on eggshells. When someone becomes overly critical or defensive, it changes that dynamic completely. Conversations that used to be easy suddenly feel heavy. You notice a tension that wasn't there before, a carefulness in what you say, almost like you have to measure every word. And the crazy part is, you don't even realize how much energy it's taking from you until you step back. Now, it's relatable because everyone experiences frustration in relationships, right? Everyone gets irritated or reacts defensively sometimes. But there's a difference between occasional frustration and a consistent pattern of criticism or defensiveness. You can feel it when the shift is real. Conversations become tricky, you second guess yourself, and you start holding back, not because you want to, but because you have to. That tension is exhausting. And here's where it gets controversial. This behavior often signals something deeper than surface-level irritability. When someone becomes consistently defensive or critical, it can be a sign that they're distracted, preoccupied, or even hiding attention somewhere else. It's not about blame. It's about noticing patterns in behavior that are unusual for the person you thought you knew. Men often push through this because they want to preserve harmony, but ignoring it only makes the disconnect grow. What's important to recognize is how it makes you feel. You know that creeping unease, that nagging doubt, the feeling that you're always on guard in conversations? That feeling is not just in your head. It's your intuition noticing a shift in how your partner engages with you. It's subtle, but it's powerful, and it's worth listening to. The key takeaway here is this. Patterns of being overly critical or defensive aren't just irritating, they're signals. They indicate a shift in emotional energy and focus, something that can affect the foundation of your connection. Recognizing this doesn't mean jumping to conclusions or accusations. It means paying attention to how consistent this behavior is and understanding that your instincts are valid. Men, this is about awareness, not confrontation. Overly critical or defensive behavior is something you can relate to, something you've probably felt creeping in at some point. And when it becomes a consistent pattern, it's a warning sign to tune in to your relationship more closely. Your peace of mind, emotional energy, and clarity depend on noticing these subtle shifts before they grow into bigger issues. 4. Changes in intimacy or affection. All right, let's get real for a second. I need you to listen closely because this is one that many men miss until it's too late. You know that closeness you used to feel, the kind that makes you feel connected, appreciated, and wanted. Sometimes it just changes. It doesn't happen overnight, but one day you start noticing a subtle shift. The warmth, the affection, the little things that made your relationship feel alive. Suddenly, they're not there as much, or they feel forced. Now here's a little truth you need to hear, and I say it calmly, but it might sting. Too many men ignore this. You excuse it, tell yourself it's stress, or blame yourself without looking deeper. You let it slide, hoping it's temporary, instead of paying attention to the pattern that's forming right in front of you. And that's exactly what some women count on, the fact that you'll let small changes go unnoticed. Changes in intimacy or affection aren't always dramatic. They're not necessarily about one big moment. They're about how your connection slowly fades when your partner's attention starts drifting. You might notice less laughter, fewer spontaneous hugs, or a decrease in genuine effort to be close. You can feel it in your chest, a little emptiness or distance that wasn't there before. It's subtle, but your instincts recognize it even if your mind is trying to rationalize it away. Here's where the wake-up call comes in. This isn't just about you waiting to see if things improve. Men, you need to observe, reflect, and act if patterns persist. Don't assume affection will come back on its own, or that it's only stress causing it. Trust your intuition. When the energy in your relationship changes, it's a message, not a coincidence. And often, it's a sign that her emotional focus is being directed elsewhere. The advice here is simple but powerful. Pay attention to consistency. Affection isn't about occasional gestures, it's about ongoing connection. Notice when the behaviors you once took for granted start disappearing. Ask yourself how often you feel that closeness and whether it matches the effort you're putting in. Don't just wait for her to snap back. Your awareness matters, and ignoring these signals is like turning a blind eye to your own gut instinct. Remember, this isn't about blame or confrontation. It's about awareness and protecting yourself emotionally. Men, sometimes it's easy to get comfortable, to overlook changes because you love her or because you hope things are fine. But comfort can be deceptive. A shift in intimacy or affection, when paired with other behaviors we've discussed, is your signal to wake up, pay attention, and assess the relationship realistically. So here's the takeaway. Emotional and physical closeness are the heartbeat of any relationship. When that heartbeat changes, don't ignore it. Observe, reflect, and trust your instincts. Wake up before small signals turn into irreversible patterns. This is your chance to understand the reality of your relationship without panic, without drama, and with calm clarity. 5. Excuses and secretive schedules. All right, this last one is crucial, and honestly, it's where many men start ignoring the obvious signs. Think about it. When someone truly values their time with you, they make room for it. But when excuses start piling up, when plans are vague, and when schedules become secretive, it's not just coincidence. Your partner's time, attention, and energy are being directed somewhere, and your gut knows it. Here's the thing, and this is a little controversial but necessary to say, too many men let this slide because they want to believe everything is fine. They think, she's busy, or it's just work, and they stop paying attention. That's where the problem starts. Patterns matter more than single moments. If you notice repeated cancellations, mysterious activities, or a reluctance to share details about where she's going or who she's with, that's a warning flag you shouldn't ignore. It's relatable because we've all been in situations where life gets busy, and yes, people make excuses sometimes. But this isn't about one-off situations. It's about consistency. When you find yourself constantly wondering what she's doing, why she's unreachable, or why plans suddenly change, that unease isn't paranoia. It's your instincts telling you to pay attention. And here's a little advice to wake up. Stop accepting vague answers. Observe, reflect, and trust what your intuition is telling you. Another thing to notice is the energy around these excuses. Is she defensive when you ask about her schedule? Does she become irritated or dismissive when you try to clarify plans? That energy itself is revealing. When excuses are paired with secretive behavior, the connection between honesty and trust starts to break down, and you can feel it without needing proof. Men, I have to be honest, sometimes we ignore these signs because we don't want to face the truth. But ignoring consistent excuses and secretive schedules is exactly how emotional distance grows, how trust erodes, and how relationships shift without warning. Paying attention now doesn't make you controlling, it makes you aware. It gives you clarity about where you stand and what's really happening. So here's the takeaway. Patterns of excuses and secrecy are rarely harmless. They're signals that something in the relationship has changed, often pointing to attention being given elsewhere. Your responsibility isn't to accuse, it's to observe and protect yourself emotionally. Notice the patterns, trust your instincts, and be willing to confront the truth calmly and clearly if it's necessary. Remember, men, this is about awareness and action, not panic. Excuses and secretive schedules are one of the clearest signs that something serious might be happening behind the scenes. Recognize it, reflect on it, and use it as a guide to understand the reality of your relationship before it's too late. All right, let's wrap this up, and I'm going to be brutally honest with you. Here's a controversial truth that most men refuse to say out loud. If you're ignoring these signs, convincing yourself it's nothing, and hoping she'll just come back to being affectionate, transparent, and fully present, chances are you're already losing. That's the uncomfortable reality. Relationships aren't just about love. They're about awareness, attention, and mutual effort. When patterns like secretive schedules, emotional distance, or sudden phone obsession show up, pretending it's not happening doesn't make it go away. It only makes you complicit in your own heartbreak. Now, I don't want you to panic. This isn't about fear. It's about clarity. Awareness gives you the power to make decisions that protect your heart, your time, and your peace of mind. And here's where I want to create a real connection with you. I've talked to countless men who felt lost, ignored their instincts, and later regretted it. I want you to know you're not alone and you're not overreacting. Your gut, your feelings, and your observations are valid. I want you to comment below with your experiences. Tell me what you've noticed, what your gut has been saying, and how you've tried to handle it. I read every comment, and I personally reach out to help guide and support those who are paying attention, who want to understand the reality of their relationships, and who are ready to protect themselves emotionally. This is about more than advice. It's about building a community where men can share, learn, and grow together. So here's the final takeaway. Don't ignore your instincts, don't excuse repeated patterns, and don't wait for someone else to give you permission to trust what you already know. Pay attention, act wisely, and take control of your emotional well-being. Your awareness today could save you years of regret tomorrow.